If you flip over to the next page, there's a quick activity that's designed to further show you the importance of knowing etymology. Below are a set of words with two columns next to it. The first column is for you to know what you think the words mean, and the column to the right is for you to know what words truly mean. We're going to go through a few of them, just so we can get a good understanding. A dollar. Okay. How many people thought a dollar was a piece of paper? Come on now, be honest. It's okay. Right? You think a dollar, that dollar bill, right? The true etymological root of a dollar is actually a silver coin. So you see, we never even really had dollars. That's just bills. But that's a whole other discussion. How about kid? Kid, what do you think?
Billy Goat.
Oh, wow. You guys are on it. You guys are on it. See, I found that one out a couple years, and now I catch myself. Anytime I say kid, I'll say child, or young one, or middle one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if you look at the word kid backwards, you know what you got, right?
It's a good one. It's a good one. I find very interesting. How about ethnic? What you guys think? Ethnic. Anybody? Your brother? What's ethnic? What you think?
I think ethnically of a group of people.
Okay. How about heathen?
That?
Heathen.
Not what ethnic means.
Oh, but it is.
Oh, that's what you're saying?
That's what it truly
is.
So when you think of ethnic studies, right? What are they really saying?
Pagan studies.
But see, if you don't know it, it's right over your head. Ghetto. How about ghetto?
German word. Comes from Europe.
See, growing up, you hear, oh, that's ghetto, right? Like it's an action, right? Right, you live in the ghetto thinking it's applying to us originally. However, look into the history of ghetto and find out it was used on some other people before us. But it has a direct correlation. What happened to those people is happening to us right now. Genocide, right now. And the lovely black. We know what we think black means. Who knows what black truly means?
It's dead in the eyes of the law.
Legally, true indeed.
It's an epithet. It basically means it's a character.
What you say, sister? Pale and bleach. Contrary to our beliefs, contrary to our feelings, black is pale. Doesn't mean us. We got to know this. We have to know this. And this is not, and once again, all of this is not based on emotions, not based on what I think, not based on what I feel. You can look it up in the dictionary for yourself. Like a wise man says, just prove it wrong. But I think you'll find that you'll be amazed at what you see. Now that we've established what etymology is and the importance of the science, let's examine the word status and other keywords associated to it. I have assembled definition sections for each word that include the etymology of the word as well as 4 definitions of the word from multiple sources. And this is by no means a comprehensive source for you to rely solely upon. This is just as a reference guide as you're studying. However, everyone should have an unabridged dictionary, multiple unabridged dictionaries, multiple law dictionaries, thesaurus, a dictionary on the root and etymology of words. Dictionaries that translates words from Spanish to English, from Hebrew, from Latin to English. All of these should be within reach while you're studying, so that you can have a really good, comprehensive understanding of what's being communicated. Status. Definition 1, standing, state, or condition. That's Black's Law, 4th edition. Definition 2, it also means a state, because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property. Number 3, the legal character or condition of a person or a thing. I'm going to move over to standing. Anybody want to read the first two definitions of standing?
Etymology of stand. Middle English as a verb. Before 900. From standing. Old English standard. Old High German stanton. Stand up. Stand in. Akin to Latin stare, to stand.
Okay. And then we can go in just to the first two there.
One's place in the community, in the estimation of others, Black's Law 4th edition. His relative position in social, commercial, or moral relations. His repute, brand, or rank, Black's Law 4th edition.
Okay. So just to can you guys hear me back there? You guys good? Just so we drill it in your head. Status is equal to estate, synonymous. Okay? Let's keep this in mind. Status is equal to estate. We're going to move down to estate. We're going to read estate. How about you, brother?
Start number 1.
Yeah.
The word estate is a word of the greatest extension and comprehends every species of property. Real and person. It describes both corpus and the extent of interest. Black Law's 4th edition. Estate is constantly used in conversing in connection with words, right, title, and interest, and is in a great degree synonymous with all of them. Black Law's 4th edition.
Okay. Status is synonymous with estate. Estate is synonymous with right, title, and interest. So when you're talking about status, you're talking about rights, titles, interest, estate. All of those are synonymous. Okay? You flip over, they have the definitions of right, title, interest as well. You guys can study these on your own, but they're here for you to read. But just know that when we're talking about,
Just kind of basic question. Why is it called Black's Law Dictionary?
that was the person, Henry Black.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's other law dictionaries. Bouvier is another one. But it's simply just the person who was named, just like Webster's. Right, exactly. We're going to read condition. The rank, situation, or degree of a particular person in someone of the different orders of society, or his status or situation considered as a juridical person arising from positive law or the institutions of society. Mode or state of being, state or situation, essential quality, property, attribute. Black's Law, 4th edition. Down in number 4, state, a particular mode of being applied to external circumstances, to the body, to the mind, and to things. All right? Islam? Oh, and I should have said this before, but at each chapter at the end is a little section for notes. If there's a question that you have, if there's a topic that you didn't hear me cover, there's a comment you want to make, or when you're on studying, you want to jot something down, you can write it here as we proceed. If you have something that I didn't mention and you want to bring it up, please do. And also let me say this, although I have the status right now as the teacher, understand that you are all teachers. Okay, don't think that I'm up here and I have all the answers. That's not how it works. I mean, we're sitting in this class format, but really in your mind, think of this as a circle, okay? And I'm putting information on the table. You also, all of you have the equal status in that sense of putting information forth on the table for everyone, because this is for the upliftment of our nation. and humanity. So we have to realize that we all have an equal share in doing this work. Islam?
Islam.
All right. Chapter dos. What is status? Now that we have laid down a solid foundation of the etymological and legal definitions of status, let us simplify the meaning, or as the wise elder teacher El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. Very interesting on that. We'll cover that a little later. But as El-Hajj Malik would say, let's make it plain. What is status? Status is one's place in the universe and one's relationship to everything and person in it. You read that one more time. Status is one's place in the universe and one's relationship to everything and person in it. Who does status apply to? Status applies to every single being in the universe. Everything, every person has a position, a place, and standing in the universe. We'll pause right here just for a moment. I know, depending upon what school of thought you may come from, you may have heard people say, you know, I'm a divine being, or I'm a God, you know, so those labels and things don't apply to me. Even divine being, that's a status. Saying you're a God, that's a status. So understand that even, no matter how conscious you feel that you are, everyone has a status. And you must know it. Not just believe it, not just think you know what it means, but truly know. Islam? When does our status apply or become activated? From the moment we are created. I would say born, but even before that, you have a status as a fetus or an embryo. That's also a status. In fact, in law, they're battling over the rights of a fetus and the status. I mean, an embryo and such in terms of abortion. So even then, when you're not even conscious and you can't even talk and walk and all of that, you have a status. Islam? And how is our status determined? Our status is determined in several ways. By our appearance, by our language, our titles and our names, our actions, and our records and documents. Now that we have a solid understanding of status and some simple ways that it can be applied, let us get a little deeper with the science. Status represents many different facets of our lives, but for this course, we will focus on 3 parts. So I broke down status just so that we can get a good understanding. We have status as it's originally spelled. That's our relationship to people, to the community, be it this classroom, your block, your neighborhood, your city, your state, your nation, the continent, the world, the universe. That's status. A state. Yes.
No, it's also important to know that we have very many different statuses depending on what the venue is.
Indeed, indeed. You have a state, which is one's relationship to all property, be it the property in my pocket, the property in your home, the property as your family, the property as a nation, including the land and all the resources within it. And just a little piece for homework, what I would like you to do, I thought about this. When you go home, look at everything you have in your home and make a list of all of your property or your estate. Make a list of all the books, all the CDs, movies, clothes, socks, pens, food supplies, everything. Then start putting a price to it. Put what its value is. You add that up. That's your personal estate. You can do that with your entire family. Now that's your family's estate. And you can get that insured. You see? So I just want us to realize that we're not as broke or as poor as it may seem. We may not have the fiat notes or the dollar bills, but we do have an estate. We do have property. And once we get on a larger scale, we'll start to realize we have a much more vast estate than we ever realized. The last section, so we have status, relationship with people, the community, estate, your relationship with property, and the last one is state. That's your mental state, the relationship with your mind. And this is actually one of the most important. Let me read real quickly. This is the Kabbalion. Has anybody heard of this? The Kabbalion? A Kibbalan? A Kabbalion?
Yes.
Can you spell it for you?
Yes.
Yes.
K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N. K-Y-B-A-L-I-O-N. Now, this is some teachings, Hermetic philosophy. And it's teachings from a master teacher known as Hermes Trismegistus. That's the name that's used in Greece, or Greek. If you go back a little farther, you see that his name is Tahuti. If you go back a little farther, you see he's also referred to as Thoth. Okay? And this is dealing with Atlantis and Atlantean history and culture. But realize this is, in more understanding Egyptian or Kemetic philosophy. This is what this is. Oh, online? Yeah. He asked me where I get the book from.
You said for who? I mean,
Tahuti?
and what was else? You had
Thoth, T-H. Yeah. T-H-O-T-H.
oh, T-H-O-T-H?
Do some research on this, brother. Very, very important information. This is also another. I'll read from this real quickly. This is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean. Okay? Let me just read something real quick, especially since we're dealing with law. Emerald Tablet 3, the key of wisdom. He who oversteppeth the law shall be punished. For only through law comes the freedom of men. Now, this isn't my teaching. This isn't my words. This is an ancient master teacher. Okay? Getting back to the Kabbalion, I wanted to just read briefly the chapter on mental transmutation. Mind, as well as metals and elements, may be transmuted from state to state, degree to degree, condition to condition, pole to pole, vibration to vibration. True Hermetic transmutation is a mental art. As we have stated, the Hermetists were the original alchemists, astrologers, and psychologists, Hermes having been the founder of these schools of thought. He was the founder of this. From astrology has grown modern astronomy. From alchemy has grown modern chemistry. From mystic psychology has grown the modern psychology of the schools. But it must not be supposed that the ancients were ignorant of that which the modern schools suppose to be their exclusive and special property. The records engraved on the stones of ancient Egypt show conclusively that the ancients had full comprehensive knowledge of astronomy, the very building of the pyramids, showing the connection between their design and the study of astronomical science. Nor were they ignorant of chemistry, for the fragments of the ancient writings show that they were acquainted with the chemical properties of things. In fact, the ancient theories regarding psychics are being slowly verified by the latest discoveries of modern science, notably those relating to the constitution of matter. And skipping down a little further, transmutation is a term usually employed to designate the ancient art of the transmutation of metals, particularly of the base metals into gold. The word transmute means to change from one nature, form, or substance into another. And accordingly, mental transmutation means the art of changing and transforming mental states, forms, and conditions into others. So you may see that mental transmutation is the art of mental chemistry. if you like the term, a form of practical mystic psychology. But this means far more than appears on the surface. Transmutation, alchemy, or chemistry on the mental plane is important enough in its effects, to be sure. And if the art stopped there, it would still be one of the most important branches of study known to man. I read this because our state of mind, our mental condition, has been, we're very ill mentally. And that's one of the most important sciences. When you change the mind, you change everything else. For on this plane of existence, all is mind. It all starts from here. Something I tell my daughter, you think it, you speak it, you be it. Before you can be it, you got to speak it. And before you speak it, you got to think it. Okay? So just giving you an understanding of why our mental state, the state of our mind, is very important and why it's key for us changing our status and everything else that follows with it. Islam? Islam. Status is your individual rank or position as it relates to the larger group. We'll go to the examples of status. It's one thing to read the definitions or read the explanation of status, how it works, but if you aren't able to process the information and demonstrate your understanding of it, then I have not done my job as a teacher, and you have not truly learned. And on the next page, there's some images that I have. We're going to go through it, and we're going to first go through our status based on appearance. And just based on the appearance of the first image here at the top, what status would you give those people? Monks, priests, monks, priests. You see, based on their attire. How about the image below that?
Nation Islam.
Nation Islam. Okay, okay. Understand. You see the brother there, he has a chain around his neck? Would you know that that was a rapper? Just based off his appearance? Just based off his appearance? Okay, okay. How about on the next page there, the people with the weapons?
Colonizing Europeans.
some sort of military, I heard military, right? Soldier. Okay, let's dig a little deeper. Do you know what kind of soldier? Based on the appearance, can you tell what division? Are they from the military, the army? Would you know that they're a private security force, Blackwater?
Well, yeah.
Now you see, when you get a little more detailed in terms of appearance, you can identify different soldiers by their respective medals or insignia that's on the uniform. And if you notice there, you can't really identify what and who they are. Right?
Go the other way. Go around.
Peace to my wife. Based on the people's appearance, we can assign some sort of status to them. We need to be conscious of this as people and communities can and will make determinants about who you are simply based on your appearance. Okay? That's why the appearance is very important. In fact, that's why I actually came in this hoodie today. By my appearance, I may have one status that may be different if I came in here in a three-piece suit like our brother Rami is. Right? The appearance... Two-piece. But I would do this even when I was in school and in college. I would wear a hoodie, sit in the back of the class to give off the appearance, to see how people would treat me. Right? Especially the teachers. See how they would react to me. Not knowing what I know or who I am, just based off my appearance. And I also saw this when I used to have a job, plantation job really, and we traveled to Switzerland. And I was wearing the suits out there, And you'll be surprised at how the tone of people change. Oh, good evening. Good afternoon, sir. Right this way, sir. Right, just based on the appearance. Don't know who I am. Next up is the chart below. It has a list of both names and titles of different people from different communities or society. Let us examine them and see what statuses are communicated by the names and the titles. First up, Beyonce. What status does she have? Based on that name, what do you think? Beyonce.
No.
Entertainer. Money. Okay, what about Hannibal? Name Hannibal. Warrior. General. Anybody thought Hannibal Lecter, like in the movies? Not Hannibal Barker, one of the best and most well-known generals ever in the history. Who was a Moor, by the way. What about Wassilu Muhammad Jocko? Anybody have an idea on who that is? Ah, my man.
What is it?
Brother said Lupe Fiasco. Anybody heard of him? Yeah. A rapper. But that's his actual true name. You say Lupe Fiasco is the entertainment name. For that brother, since you knew that. And for you.
All right, family.
All right.
Got that one, man.
I just gave him 77 amazing facts about the Moors. Little plug. That's because I'm a little partial to hip hop, so you gotta understand. What about El Hajj Malik El Shabazz? Ah, you see? But maybe next time. What about Yip Man? Yip Man. Martial artist. How many people knew that was the person that trained Bruce Lee? See? Gotta understand. Gotta know. Let's go over the titles. How about a chief? A chief. What kind of status is a chief? Anyone?
Like a king. Like matter of fact, even the chief, like the president, you would be like the high chief.
Indeed. How about a grand sheik? What's that? Okay, what about ESQ? Oh, okay, you guys are on it. You guys are on it today. Esquire. Okay. What about we'll close it out with Michael Jackson. What kind of status? Genius. Maybe this is my personal opinion, but I feel that down the line in some years he'll be known as a prophet. We see him as an entertainer now, but that name that may have a different status, 100 years from now.
One thing I've learned is that why he has the root word El and Michael.
Mikael.
Get it?
Or where we are now, Samuel L. Mary Collins. Just something to notice. As we see in our addition to our appearance, a status can be communicated based off our names and titles. We need to be conscious of this because contrary to popular belief, words can indeed hurt you if used incorrectly or in ignorance. Next, we have our status being determined by our actions. This is generally known and accepted without much thought, but let's just demonstrate just a little bit to be clear. For example, if you've seen a person that was on the side of the freeway holding up a sign, hand out, what status would you give that person? Homeless. Beggar. Right? That's an action. How about a person that has a hose and is spraying a building that's on fire? right? This is simple, but this is just to help you understand that your status can be communicated by your actions. Okay? Lastly, let us cover a few examples of records and documentation that communicate our status. A driver's license, a birth certificate, a nationality card. All of these communicate a status. And these in particular, these documents and records and such, these are a little more concrete, as it's not entirely up to interpretation. It really much says pretty clearly what status is being communicated. But if you don't know what it is, that's where you can run into trouble. Islam? Finally, let us remember that one's status, whether it is appearance, names, actions, and documentation, depends on the knowledge or awareness of the group, community it is interacting with. You can have the most honorable title or be one of the world's greatest rap artists. Peace, my man. But if the community you're relating to is ignorant of that information, ignorant meaning not knowing. And then let me take a step back. Let's understand ignorance is just a lack of information, a lack of knowledge. Don't confuse it as something negative, as it being stupid, a lack of ability to understand. You simply don't know. So, if you hear me say, or you come across the word ignorant, don't take it offensive. We are all ignorant of some things. To remain ignorant, now that's where the problem lies. Once you don't know, now it's your duty to find out. Islam,
and on that point, I just want to interject. Even in the Holy Circle 7 Quran, it'll tell you that in order for us to gain knowledge, we first must admit that we're ignorant of it. We must first admit and embrace ignorance in order to open the door for knowledge. Yeah. So that's even within our book, chapter 43, I think it's 43. It's my second favorite. Still that number, I think it's 43. But we must embrace ignorance, as the Rami Salaam is telling us. Embrace that. Admit it. If you don't know, I don't know is the most powerful words you can say sometimes. Because then you're going to be taught and you'll leave with gain from that moment forward.
True. I mean, that I can speak from personal experience.
Biggest plague in our community.
I grew up, I was always told I was pretty intelligent growing up. I was smart in class. I got good grades. So when I felt like I knew something, I would stand on it and I'm ready to defend it. I know what I'm talking about. Right? I remember I got into this argument with a Jamaican brother about what's the biggest sport in the world. I'm like, American football. Don't you see the Super Bowl? He said, yeah, young brother, I hear you. But, around the world, football, or soccer as we know it, is really the biggest sport in the world. Yes, it is. And I was, ignorant, right? I'm thinking I know what I'm talking about. I go home, start trying to get some facts together on the stadium sizes. And then I found out, I said, I was mistaken, right? But that's the humbling. You got to eat that humble pie. And when you don't know, it's okay. I don't know. You know what? I don't know. My bad. Can you teach me? You see, and then that's how you get to the process of knowing. I wanted to say something quick also on the community being ignorant and the relationship to the community you're relating to about the information. I walked around Lake Merritt, which is not too far from here, with my fez on a couple of weeks back, just to see, amongst different reasons, but one, just to see how people will react to it. And what I noticed was most of our people, Americans, Moorish Americans to be specific, they walk right by me like I wasn't even there, right? Not knowing that the fez represents our crown. However, European people, they would look, give me a smile, give me a nod, right? Whole different energy. Because some of them knew, you see? See, and they understand the importance of it. They understand the honor and the respect that it holds. So it depends on who you're relating to, the community that you're relating to, and the knowledge that the community has that you're relating to. Because if the community does have no idea, it's just a funny hat, right? It's just a funny hat. This black dude is wearing a funny hat walking around the lake. Or that's a Moorish American wearing the fez, the ancient crown. Islam brother in the back?
Yes, Islam brother. I have a story to share briefly about my experience with the European in Connecticut. I was at a food co-op a couple years ago. And I was wearing my fez. It was winter season, and a European woman, she approached me in a joking manner, and she says, "You're wearing that hat because it's cold outside?" And I said, "No, it's my national and religious headdress." And she says, "National and religious?" And I told her that I was Moorish American, and she repeated Moorish American, and I said that, yeah, we're standing on Moroccan soil. And so afterwards, she invited me over to her table, and we began speaking. I told her that this was El Maghrib. And at the end of our 30-minute conversation, as I was walking away, she said, "So you're Moorish American and you wear that fez in that honor?" I said, "Yes. It's popularized by Masons and Shriners, but it's not a known fact." And as I turned to walk away, she says, "Oh, you mean the people that stole your government?" Just to echo what you're saying, they pretty much know the Europeans.
Man, let me build on another story. I was going to a donut shop, get some Chinese food. Even though the brother actually isn't Chinese, but that's a whole other story. As I go in, an elder Moor asked me, if you got some change on the way out, can you help me out? No problem. I go out, give him a few of the fiat notes, not dollars, right? Give him a few of the fiat notes, and I start talking to him, just building, and an elder European brother comes up, pushing a cart, also appearing to be homeless. And he's saying, it's good that, that people are helping out people. This is what we need more of in humanity, instead of people just walking by us like we're nothing, etc., right? At the end of the conversation, I say, to the European brother, I said, "What's your name, brother?" And he said, I honestly don't remember, but it was like, Fred Smith, something like that, right? I say, "Pleasure to meet you, Fred. I'm Rami Salaam." Immediately, he bowed. He said, "My Muslim name is Hakeem Muhammad," something like that, right? Blew me away, because the appearance of him was a homeless European brother, right? A homeless European brother. As soon as I communicated to him my true appellation, my true name, he let me in that he knew, and gave me the honor and the respect. So, it's very interesting. Once you start standing on the truth, and you start communicating your status with people, you will see the changes that happen, as opposed to, "I'm just a black man." Understand? Islam? Islam. Is there any questions before we move forward? Okay. Chapter 3 is our current status and how it affects us. This is where it's going to get a little deep. So, many of y'all that still have the belief that we're black Americans, or African American, hard goes to you. It's going to be hard to digest.
Yeah, even the word Afro.
Right, Afro. Right. Yes.
What's the difference between understanding and understanding? I know I read that, and I was like, why would you put understand,
Well, in brief, from my perspective, understanding is when you're standing under it, when you're trying to grasp that comprehension. Understanding is when you feel it inside and you know it inside.
Part of you.
Right. Overstanding is when you see it and you see the whole thing. You see the whole scope of things. There's an interview with Tupac actually where he's breaking it down with this brother named Cody Scott. I forget his actually true appellation, but he was an ex-gang member.
Monster Cody.
Monster Cody. And he says, understanding is like seeing the police helicopter in the sky. You see the helicopter and you see it going around. Overstanding is the helicopter's perspective of the ground. They can see it all. So you may have an understanding of this, excuse me, there's a helicopter up there, and you can see it and you can move around and you see a certain perspective. But from the helicopter's perspective, the overstanding perspective, you see it all. You can see very clearly what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
In these days and times, Moors are unfortunately known as blacks, black American, African American, people of color, Negroes, niggers, etc. All of these terms are synonymous with the term Negro, especially black, as it literally means Negro in Spanish. Look it up if you do not believe me. You can get a color crayon, matter of fact. Go to Crayola, just flip it around. They have English and Spanish on there. You pull up that black crayon, and you'll see it says Negro. Right? We use black in cultural and social respects, and it can be interpreted differently. We use black power, right? The black man is God, the black woman is God, right? And that's okay when we're relating to that specific community, culturally. But when we're talking about law, when we're talking about truth, black is not where it's at. This is not my feelings. We can look through history, as we shall, and we'll see what black communicates as a status.
Rami Salaam. If you don't mind. And I also want to interject on that. With what we're dealing with, I would advise everyone to get that connotative linguistics out. Because in most cases, when you're dealing with a situation where you're in danger or where you have to present something that maybe is uncommon to you, then what you normally do, what is habit, comes out. And so if you keep walking around doing something that's backwards, understand that when presented, you know, certain parts of your brain, your reactive mind kicks in for protection. Your reactive mind has been trained to do something. And until you reorientate yourself, correct yourself, it will come back out. So as much as we understand and embrace what our brothers are saying and sisters are saying to us in love, when they say black power or this and that, we understand what they're saying because they're coming at us in love. However, that does not mean we embrace the connotative linguistics and the spell it casts upon us. You see, and we can't walk around with knowledge and still present ourselves as ignorant.
It's very confusing when we do that. Let me read a quick excerpt from the autobiography of Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. It kind of hammers home on this point, you know, especially because most black people, quote-unquote black people, they always talk about Malcolm X by any means necessary, etc. But rarely do they really listen to what he was saying. So let's examine this. Page 347, when he was in Mecca. You may be shocked by these words coming from me, but on this pilgrimage, what I have seen and experienced has forced me to rearrange much of my thought patterns previously held and to toss aside some of my previous conclusions. This was not too difficult for me. Despite my firm convictions, I have been always a man who tries to face facts and to accept the reality of life as new experience and new knowledge unfolds it. I've always kept an open mind, which is necessary to the flexibility that must go hand in hand with every form of intelligent search for truth. This is coming from Brother El-Hajj Malik himself. When he found out some truth, he on to it. Now he's standing on that. And that's what we must do. I know it's easy for us to say, what's up, black man? And that's cool, but it ain't cool. Right? Really and truly, it's not cool. Brother the back?
Islam. God's praises, Allah, Father, Prophet, leave honor to all Moors.
Speak up just a little bit for me, brother.
Give honor to all Moors here. Islam. What the brother just talked about in regards to black not being cool, black power, things of this nature, is not cool because Europeans taught us to say that. Islam, during the institution of slavery, a learning institution, removed Moor and said, we're going to call them Negro, black, color. We're going to call them nigger first, period. Then we're going to call them whatever we want to call them after that. But when it became politically correct, we were taught thought patterns. The theme of our thought was, we're black. I said before, black is an epithet, meaning a way to describe the character of a person, like that old man. That didn't tell you how old he is. It's telling you his character, his mannerism,
his condition.
His condition. And so, and his capacity or status. So it's not, you know, when somebody says black, they're not referring to the color of your skin. I'm not black, I'm brown. So we're not talking about the color of our skin. We're talking about the character of an individual. So what is the character of black? When you hear the word black, like you hear the word old, when you think about the character of a black man, what's being portrayed out there? Who taught you about the character? The European did. And the number one character is inferior. With that, I say Islam, please.
Islam. Let's show and prove. Let's not just speak on it. I want you also, when you go home, look up black in the dictionary. You will see that it is an adjective describing, just as the brother said, describing the person, right? Or describing the thing. Black car, black shoes, black man. Describing, but not identifying. Well, let's get into the law. Negro. The word Negro means a black man, one descended from the African race, and does not commonly include mulatto. This is Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. African descent. Persons of African nativity or of African descent within the meaning of the Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14, 1870, are members of the Negro races of Africa, or their descendants by intermixture with races constituting free white persons. Once again, free white persons is not identifying Europeans, it is a status. And I want you to look up free white persons in the law dictionary, and you will be surprised by what you see in there. But let me continue.
Oh yeah, no, on that note, it was a dude, he came from Egypt to the Americas, right? And when he got to America, they told him that he was to be classified as white.
You're already ahead of the studies, brother. Hold on. We're going to get there. Got that in there, brother. Constituted free white persons, the Negro race is referred to being those from which the emancipated slaves in the United States descend. So African descent, synonymous with Negro, synonymous with black man. You say you're African, it's a Negro, a black man. Talking about the same, in law, talking about the same thing. And a quick history on African, coming from Scipio Africanus, the Roman general. That was named after, he got the nickname after Hannibal, the Moorish general. And once he conquered this region of what we now know Africa, those people became his subjects, Africans. The Roman is what African comes from. Understand it, Scipio Africanus. S-C-I-P-I-O, I believe is how you spell the first name.
Just on that note of Africanus, understand that when we're dealing with European colonial system of things, that everything that they do deals with indoctrination. So even the spell of considering yourself African is a spell that's dealing with defeat. It deals with your defeat. So when you say it, you're attaching the name of the European sun who defeated you. You see? And so these things are done without our knowledge, of course, but we have to look and examine all of it. And so that's why it's important when we learn something, we have to implement. Because these things that we're dealing with are so powerful that, I mean, I shouldn't even have to iterate that. You can just go outside and look at your neighborhood. Islam.
Hold on 1 second. Let me just get through the last two. Black person, occurring in Constitution and laws, must be taken in its generic sense as contradistinguished from white. Contradistinguished is the complete opposite. And when you look up white and you understand that it means purity and it has all of these positive meanings, in law, black must be taken as the opposite of that, regardless of how we feel, because this is status now. Lastly, colored. By common usage in America, this term in such phrases as colored persons, the colored race, colored man, people of color, and that's including our brown brothers and sisters, Latinos and Hispanics as well. Let's not get that confused, because they're us as well. And the like is used to designate Negroes or persons of the African race, including all persons of mixed blood descended from Negro ancestry. It has also been held that there is no legal technical signification to the phrase colored person, which the courts are bound judicially to know. Colored person, African, African descent, African American, Negro, black, it's all the same, synonymous in law. And it's all represented in the status. We cool on that?
Yeah.
Now we're going to go ahead and skip over to the Federal Directive number 15. It's also known as the Race and Ethnic Standards for Federal Statistics and Administrative Reporting. This directive provides standard classifications for record keeping, collection, and presentation of data on race and ethnicity in federal program, administrative reporting, and statistical activities. This it's the same page. It's I'm sorry. Sorry. A little low. These classifications should not be interpreted as being scientific or anthropological in nature, nor should they be viewed as determinants of eligibility for participation in any federal program. I just want to stop here and say that it's saying it should not, which is a little different than it shall not. It should, but it could be, right? And it's speaking of federal programs, but it doesn't say what else. State programs, for instance. Municipality programs, for instance. So you got to be, when we're dealing with law, it's very specific. And you got to keep your eye, read the fine print, as they say. The devil is in the details. You got to be careful because things are worded in a particular way. And it's by design. And if you just read through it and think it means something and you don't know what it means, they got you.
Yep.
Now we'll get to the definitions in Federal Directive number 15, and I urge you to look up, just hit the Google search, Federal Directive number 15. It's talking about race and ethnicity, excuse me, thank you. The basic racial and ethnic categories for federal statistics and program administrative reporting are defined as follows. American Indian or Alaskan Native. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of North America who maintains cultural identification through tribal affiliation or community recognition. Asian and Pacific Islander. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, or the Pacific Islands. This area includes, for example, China, India, Japan, Korea, the Philippine Islands, Samoa. Black. Listen very carefully. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Hold on now. Hold on now. A person having origins in any of the black racial groups. Groups of what? Are they specific? Of Africa. Where in Africa? Where? You see? It's very general. They don't tell you what group. Could be a group of animals, for instance, right? A group of human chattel property, for instance. They're not specific. As you see with Asian Pacific Islander, American Indian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples. But when you go down to black, it's any black racial group. Let's see what white says. This is where it gets real interesting. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East. So white as a status means you have origins in the original peoples. Listen carefully. The original people of Europe, and by the way, we were actually in Europe first, right? Just so you don't get it twisted. We were there first also. But more specifically, North Africa. Who was in North Africa? Could it have been the Moors? Or the Middle East. There's another very interesting term. Where's the Middle East? Where's the Middle West? You see? They're creating these terms. A lot like Arabia. Arabia is another term you have to look into. It's you know, they put some little magic on it. If you start looking up Arabia, you'll see that it's actually talking about an area, but it's not specifically talking about a location, like a country or a land.
Yeah, right.
The Middle East, if you weren't aware, includes Egypt. So white means you have origins in the original peoples of Egypt and North Africa. Status, and this is race and ethnicity standards for the federal programs in the U.S., the United States. You understand why status is important and knowing what the words mean? Being ignorant of it, you may call yourself black and you're just some black racial group somewhere in Africa, but where from? You say white, well now you're talking about Europe, a specific place. North Africa. The Middle East, even though it's created, is still a specific area. And if you look, all of them are connecting you to a specific area except for black. Black is the Africa, the continent. And that's not by accident. That is by design. Islam?
Question.
Yes.
So, you know, when you fill out all these applications and things like that, is it better for us to put I decline to state or white?
It's a good question. What do you feel?
Can you speak a little louder?
I just because, you know, they always have you fill out when you have applications and stuff. Sometimes they don't allow you not to state. You have to state. But should we do I decline to state or white? So I'm thinking that we should do the white, but I just want to, that's what we're supposed to do.
If you know your history.
Okay.
According to the status.
Because that's who you really are.
We are the white people. I know it's a little like, because I know that the white man is the devil. Or so they say. But what are they really saying when they say that? You see? The black man is God. The pale man is God. You see? You got to understand. What were you going to say, brother, in the back?
White is the answer. I would say that without a problem. According to this ties into the demonstration of the federal code. This is the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and everything that is stated in regards to the definitions of black, Hispanic, white are in here as well. So your employees or your employer has this information. And so when you go down, it'll tell you, it'll go into the details in regards to identifying with a race. It'll say black or African American include all employees who identify as black. males in column D and as black females in column J. So nobody has a gun to our head saying, you gonna say black. That was during slavery. But, you know, we're free now. And so we must proclaim our nationality individually as our own, and according to the prophet Noble Jewel Ali. And our questionnaire, and I'm paraphrasing, white means pure. Pure means God. God means Lord of the land. So again, what the brother said is, we're the de jure white people.
And de jure is a law term, D-E-J-U-R-E. De jure, D-E-J-U-R-E. And that is the opposite of de facto. De facto, D-E-F-A-C-T-O. I would tell you what that means, but man knows not by being told. So I want you to look those terms up if you don't know. We're going to show and prove. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, question regarding checking those boxes. I was, I don't know where I heard it, but I heard that some people say to create another box and put Moorish American and check that on those documents. That's something I've heard. So just to clarify that, should we check the white box or should we create a separate box? You see what I'm saying?
Very good point.
Maybe an option.
Why isn't it an option? Just because they don't have the box there doesn't mean.
So could you put other?
What is other? Right in Moorish. And if we're really being proper, our race is Asiatic. So if we're speaking on race, then we should put Asiatic, not necessarily referring to Asia as we think it, but at one time the whole earth was known as Asia. And as us being the first peoples, well, we were the Asiatics. So understand what that term and that status represents as well. I see free white persons right here. Let me just read this this section right here. Let's see where this we got it. It includes Magyars, Lapps and Finns, and the Basques and the Albanians. It includes the mixed Latin, Celtic Iberian, and something there. Who is that? Moorish inhabitants. Well, isn't that something? And this is from a Black's Law Dictionary, right there. They say, you know, you want to hide something from a, put it in a book, right? Don't they say that? It's in the book. It's not illegal. You just flip it open, check it for yourself. Go on Google, check it for yourself. It's very simple.
Yeah, I just want to mention that my 6 times great grandmother is from Portugal, and she settled in the Caribbean. As I was a child growing up in St. Thomas, none of my parents or my family ever called ourselves black. We never called ourselves black, and I'm wondering if that could have probably been passed along from my 6 times great grandmother.
Powerful. I would have to think so.
Because it is not.
Right, true indeed. I have an example of the Dred Scott case, which is really important, but I want you to do that study. I have an excerpt from Chief Justice Taney, one of the Supreme Court justices on that case. And he has some very important things that he spoke about with regards to the Dred Scott case and the decision. Dred Scott, just to briefly cover, was a quote-unquote slave who tried to purchase his freedom, got denied, so he went to the courts because he went to the north, and once you went past a certain area in the United States of America, you were considered free. It went back and forth to the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land. They made a decision. It was plaintiff in error. It was thrown out of court. The reason being is because of his status. He didn't have the proper status to even be in the court. Because as a Negro, as a black man, he has no status. He has no rights. He's not a citizen. But I don't want you to believe me on this. Read what it says, because he also mentions the Indians in saying even though they weren't a part of the United States when it was created, they had their own government, their own laws, and they were respected as free people. And so they had the right to come into the United States and be citizens if they so choose. And they had sovereignty on the land, even as the United States was there. Now, what happened to them, that's a whole nother discussion, and you know how they got regulated to the reservations. But that's more complex. Yeah, brother.
I was just wondering if you would clarify, because you say we can claim white, so to speak, but it says a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East. But you say that we are from North America, so how could we, if we're going by their laws, right? We weren't actually in Europe, North Africa, or Middle East. We were in North America, right? So when we claim American Indian, you know what I'm saying? Right?
To clarify, one is not their laws. We actually gave all of this information to them. Also, we were there and we were here. That's the trick, is they make it seem as though we came from over there as slaves, or there was people here, and they had nothing to do with those people. We are the same people. And this, we were on all over the world long before the Europeans were ever around.
We are indigenous and aboriginal on every continent, I believe. Is that correct?
Right. And also, what we have to understand is that what we call today America, when the land was whole, this is Africa. It's split, but it's still the same land. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, that's where you have to get into a little more studies and understand the language and what they're saying. But if you can get in your mind that North Africa, Northwest Africa, is actually North America. That's what we have to understand, is that when they say North Africa, really it's still this is all the same land. So I hope that somewhat answers your question. But I wanted to get to the current examples of black as a legal status because it's very powerful, and my brother Fly Benzo in the back pointed it out. Before we get to our brother Mustafa Hefni, which was an Egyptian, I'm gonna first read you a little excerpt that I found on the Wall Street Journal. Chinese people in South Africa have the status of black. A high court in South Africa ruled on Wednesday that Chinese South Africans will be reclassified as black, a term that includes black Africans, Indians, and others who are subject to discrimination under apartheid. As a result of this ruling, ethnically Chinese citizens will be able to benefit from government affirmative action policies aimed at undoing the effects of apartheid. The next page. So after 3.3, you can flip over from 3.3. Sorry, excuse me. So you flip over right after 3.3 at the top there. I'm reading from this excerpt. We all good? At the top of the page. In 2006, the Chinese Association of South Africa sued the government, claiming that its members were being discriminated against because they were being treated as whites and thus failed to qualify for business contracts and job promotions reserved for victims of apartheid. The association successfully argued that since Chinese South Africans had been treated unequally under apartheid, they should be reclassified in order to redress the wrongs of the past. I point this out, and you can look this up for yourself, that we have Chinese brothers and sisters in South Africa that have the status as black. Follow me? It's clear that it's a status, right? Now let's go on the other side of things. As our brother Fly Benzo said, Mustafa Hefni, a little bit below. And this is a CNN link. You can check this out. Look up Mustafa Hefni, Egyptian, right? Mustafa Hefni was born in Egypt and has always been proud of his Egyptian culture and his African ancestry. But when Hefni immigrated to America, the U.S. government told him he was no longer a black man. I was told by immigration that I was white. I was not told by immigration that I was white until I passed the exam for citizenship. And then I was told I am now white, he explains. Hefney initially laughed when told of his new racial classification. But he's no longer chuckling. He recently filed suit against the U.S. government to get his race classification changed back from white to black. It hurts me. See, you're laughing, but you understand the confusion, right? Because he don't even know. Black is the. Let's go a little further. It hurts me. It definitely hurts me, Hefney says. It hurts me because I'm able to reconcile my reality as a black person. In addition to the emotional hurt, Hefney says that when the government changed his race, they also changed his social status. I would have had more opportunity for advancement. And even for hiring, had I been considered black, he says. I was prevented from applying and requesting positions and other benefits for minority person because I knew I was legally white. We're not talking about how you feel, culturally, socially, what you think. Legally, he's considered white. And why? Because according to the standards, white, Egypt, he's an Egyptian. Therefore, he's a white person. Right? So now we have 8 Chinese brothers and sisters in South Africa that have the status of black. And we have an Egyptian brother coming from the land, and now he has the status as white over here. Do you see the confusion that's going on, the games that are being played? Especially when we think we're black as an identity. When it's not dealing with identity at all, it's dealing with the status. Make sense?
Absolutely.
And even if you touch on where he says he argued for the benefits for minority, which minority means incompetent. So he just went all the way down.
I didn't cover that one. I didn't.
I'm sorry.
Brilliant. No, amazing. Minority. Look it up in the law dictionary. Look it up in the regular unabridged dictionary. See what minority means. And understand what's being communicated when we say we're the minority. A minor, right? Do minors, are they able to do everything, right? Okay. Makes sense, right? Now we're going to bring it on home. This is my favorite one right here. This is a case involving, quote unquote, police brutality of a man who was initially identified as a skinny black guy. Okay? A man from India who was slammed to the ground by a police officer had been singled out by police after a caller said a skinny black guy with a toboggan hat was walking in the neighborhood and peering into garages, recording show. Okay? And this is happening in Alabama, mind you. So you understand what's going on. Okay? After finding out his status, let's see what happens. The growing public outrage about police brutality in the United States extended abroad last month after an Indian man. So he was initially identified as a skinny black guy. They later found out he was from India, and I'm not speaking about the so-called Indians that they say are from here. He's from India as in over there, in the east. Understand? So he has a nationality. After an Indian man was left partially paralyzed following a violent arrest by 2 Alabama police officers. On Friday, officials in Alabama announced the indictment of Eric Sloan Parker on charges that he violated the civil rights. You hear me? The officer violated the civil rights. Don't we march for that? Ain't we been marching for that? The civil rights of Shurish Bahai, excuse me if I pronounce it wrong. Shurish Patel. That's his appellation, the Indian man's appellation, his true name. and used unreasonable force during the February 6th arrest. Very key, keep in mind, February 6th. Law enforcement officers who violate their oath to protect and use excessive force must be brought to justice. U.S. Attorney Joyce White Vance said Saturday. The federal prosecutor said Parker was being charged with the deprivation of rights under color of law. Color of law is another law term that I want you to look up. I'm not going to tell you what it means. I want you to look it up and see what it says for yourself. You will be surprised. The incident sparked outrage towards the police in Alabama and an embarrassment for the state at home and abroad. Shortly after news of the arrest spread, the Indian Foreign Ministry vocalized its condemnation to senior U.S. diplomats in India and urged for an expeditious investigation. Alabama Governor Robert Bentley apologized on February 17th. The incident happened on the 6th. By the 17th, the governor of Alabama was apologizing to the Indian government for the treatment of Patel. Now I want to ask you, especially in light of what's going on in Baltimore, or let's think about Trayvon Martin, or Oscar Grant, or Sean Bell, Mike Brown, right? Oscar Grant, right. This event happened on the 6th. By the 17th, they're going to issue an apology by the governor in Alabama. And I looked up where this happened. It happened 3 hours away from Selma, where we just had the 50th anniversary and they're marching for the civil rights, right? Isn't that kind of odd? We've been marching for 50 years trying to get civil rights, and here the Indian man, his civil rights were violated, and the officer was indicted on charges. They're issuing apologies, saying that they must be brought to justice. And he was paralyzed, partially paralyzed. The brother in Baltimore, he was murdered, killed, spine snapped. Where's the apology from the Baltimore governor? I mean the Maryland governor. Do you know why? All right, you see? You see?
Yeah, I thought it was, when I read that a while back, what caught my attention is they immediately admitted police brutality. That's exactly what the government said, what the governor said. And it just caught me by, because I'm thinking we've always been complaining about police brutality. He admitted openly, no court, no investigation. It hadn't even been in court, but he admitted openly that it was police brutality. And they apologized. I did find that amazing.
And see, if you want to think a little bit, I'll get you in a second, but just a little bit on a broader scope, you have to understand politics on a world level. You see, the Indian government flexed on it. Right. And they are a superpower economically. They say, yo, you violating our people, you need to clean this up. Right away.
Wasn't that a human rights issue as opposed to a civil rights?
It's also a human rights issue. Yeah. As opposed to black. No rights. And we don't even have civil rights. Because civil rights is equated to rights of a citizen. And we are not citizens. We can't be citizens as blacks, or as African Americans, or as Negroes, or people of color, etc. We cannot be. Section 20 of the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment actually has 20 sections. And Section 12 says clearly that Africans shall not be citizens. Now they took that out and covered it up, but if you do some digging, you'll see. Aside from the Supreme Court ruling that said that we can't be citizens because we descended from slaves and they were never intended on being inside the constitutional fold of government of the United States Republic.
Two things. Relative to the status, simply put, brothers and sisters, when they talk about status, they really, when you claim black, what you're essentially saying is that you're their article of merchandise. You're their property and you're an animal. So that's why they continue to abuse and misuse our people. And then secondly, I was in the Library of Congress last year searching the 1320, and I approached the librarian and asked him for the particular journal. And he said, oh, no, you're not looking for the 1320, you're looking for this. Undoubtedly, the 13th Amendment with 2 sections, and he pushed it in my face. So I kind of recouped, I went back to my desktop, I sat down and think about how am I going to approach this European. So I pulled it up on my desktop and I showed him. And he says, oh, okay, yeah. And he placed a call quickly to the right department, and he sent me over there, and they had it already prepared for me. So once you know your information and you stand on it, then they'll provide it to you.
Indeed. You standing with your status. Stand. I got. What's going on?
No, it was one of the brothers who are watching, participating in the live stream. So, as I said, this is being streamed. He just, Hassan Bey just wanted to make the point that autochthonous status, understanding our autochthonous status, also equates to being a free white person.
Can you spell that out for the people? Autochthonous. I sort of remember, but I don't got it precisely. And while he's grabbing that, there's also a section 3.4 on our status as regards to nationality. And according to the, you got it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's AUTOCHTHONUS. Islam Hassan Bey.
Islam. I'm just going. Yes.
I have a question. So I understand your points about not being citizens, but how does that jive with the 14th Amendment? I thought I was supposed to correct that.
Repeat the question.
I said I understand this discussion about us not being citizens, but how does that jive with the 14th Amendment, which was specifically designed to address citizenship for Africans?
So, from my perspective, it's basically like we're not supposed to be citizens, but we'll give you this jacket, and you could pretend, when you have this jacket on, you can act and be like citizens. The key being that they're putting this jacket on, and they can take it off. And Prophet Noble Drew Ali also said that we don't even need the 14th Amendment. If all men are created equal, then there should be no need for that. But see, that's the key, is understanding that black doesn't truly represent a human being. And let me follow that up with Noble Drew Ali. This is a quote from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, or the Moorish Science Temple of America. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family. So you see, what we don't quite understand is that when we're using those terms, it's not actually speaking of us as human beings. It's as property.
Artificial, bro. Artificial person.
As property that's only entitled to federal benefits.
Benefits. As they see fit.
Exactly.
Now, if they don't see fit to give us any benefits,
you are bound by their rules and regulations once you receive those benefits.
Those statutes and codes and amendments, and not the true laws.
Yeah, and the sister asked about the 14th Amendment. The 13th Amendment with 2 sections, the 14th and the 15th Amendment, are granted privileges. You have to understand that there are 2 governments that exist on the land. There's the United States of America and the United States. The United States was formed in 1871. And they are the ones that grant privileges to their citizens. So blacks are citizens of that particular government, which is a corporation.
Just to bring that point home, because we're talking about trickery here, okay? We're talking about sleight of hand. The United States of America, the Republic, the U.S. democracy. The United States of America Republic is the de jure. The U.S. democracy is the de facto. You got to understand there's a game. That's why in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you look in the Constitution, in fact, there's not democracy in there at all. And yet when you hear politicians speak, the U.S. specifically they're always talking about democracy, right? But democracy, that's the, when we always speak about the they are doing this to us, they are trying to get us, that is the U.S. democracy, which is really a corporation.
So the Republicans represent the Republic, and those Democrats represent the demos.
But see, this but the hustle is they make Republic and Republican look so bad that you don't even.
Right.
I don't want it.
They're starting to hit me in the head and make sense.
And so you get into the Democrat, and that's giving them what they want. Right. But really, the whole
and so they sent the blacks to the Democrats, which is the de facto stuff. Oh my goodness.
It was a switch. We switched. We were Republicans, and we switched to Democrats because of the treatment. But then, the term Republicans and Democrat is different from the original government, which he's talking about.
Yeah, right. So even understand that even Republican versus Democrat is part of the hustle.
Exactly.
It's to get you to think, okay, well, I don't want to be them, so I'm going to be them.
Exactly.
But really, they're both working for the same. The same way the attorneys, you know, the attorneys that represent you or whatever, they're both working for the same system.
You state you're competent when you pick an attorney.
Right.
Attorney for you.
Right. True indeed. Let me.
Can I add something real quick?
You're still on 3.4, did we move?
Yeah, we was, well, I actually didn't even get to 3.4, so let me cover that real quickly.
You got time.
We got time?
Yeah.
Okay, real quickly, 3.4 is speaking on nationality. And according to the Immigration and Nationality Act of the U.S. Department of State, it states that the term national of the United States means A, citizen of the United States, or B, a person, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. So if you are a citizen of the U.S., they use that term and say you are a national. But we know we can't be citizens, so we can't be nationals. Never mind that that's a corporation, but just understanding the idea of nationality, and if we would even try to claim to be a U.S. national, we cannot, because we're not U.S. citizens. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it also just to put on the record, allegiance is defined as an obligation of fidelity and obedience to government in consideration for protection that government gives. Black's Law, 4th edition. Okay? So it's obedience. You got to be obedient. The Pledge of Allegiance is meaning I'm going to be obedient to you. But who are you pledging the allegiance to? The U.S. corporation. We're not citizens. We don't have rights. So we're really just pledging ourselves as voluntary slaves. Really and truly, to cut it all the way playing field.
That's a legal term too.
Right.
Voluntary service.
Right. True indeed. So I say that to say that without a nationality, we are considered stateless. This is an international term. Stateless. You don't have a state. And another thing we have to realize is we say, like, the state of California, the state of Maryland, that those are actually nations. And they all grouped together to form, they got it, clicked up and created the United States, or the United Nations of America. That's why each state had its own flag and its own constitution. You see? And this is a word game.
How did you see a territory?
That's a good one.
What made you just think of that?
Well, because it's been bugging me for yeah.
The district. I mean, we would need to research what a district means.
They overstand because they overstand the United Nations of North America.
You want to add on that, brother?
I mean, they understand.
The District of Columbia is a play on Christopher Columbus. My understanding, and I believe it was In 1880, it actually was declared a corporation, the United States government. The name of that government was called District of Columbia.
Right.
And so, like, this ties into, I don't know if it's going to be covered today, but just dealing with birth certificates and things, everything is housed in the District of Columbia. This deals with jurisdiction, status, and so that's the reason why they do that, so they can gain status.
It's not a territory.
It's like this. People don't understand that you have the state and then you have the federal government. Those are two separate, I don't know how to say it.
Entities.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're separate from each other. The District of Columbia is supposed to be a 10 by 10 square mile radius where the federal government has jurisdiction only within that territory. Now, when they purchase land, they have to say, well, this is our land, so we have jurisdiction on these land. But that goes to say, when they created the District of Columbia, it was only supposed to be used, they're only supposed to have jurisdiction within that 10 by 10 area. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but they gain jurisdiction through the zip codes.
Right, through the zip codes and trips, and those words are art.
And by us voluntarily going into the system. Once we say it, or we sign up for that citizen, that state driver's license, that birth certificate.
One quick comment last week. I used to work in bureaucratic health services environment, okay? And back in the 80s, in patient intake, working in emergency room, whatever, they implemented on the patient intake form that we had to identify whether you're a U.S. citizen or not. And I'm like, who cares? For what we're here for, who cares? And they required it too. And if you didn't put it, if you looked like me, you were required to put on there black. If you put anything else, we, the employees, were required to correct it. So that's what I'm saying.
It's not by accident. I want to read quickly. This here is the Article 13 with the 20 sections. Okay, Section 12. It states, the traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on pain of death and the forfeiture of all the rights and property of persons engaged therein. And, this is very key, and the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens. Not should not, not could not, shall not. It's a reason why we don't see this Article 13 with the 20 sections in it, because it spells it out for you. Then you have to understand, well, why not? Why are we not citizens? African, descendants of African settings. That goes back to what African means. African descent in the law dictionary, which is synonymous with Negro and a black man. That's why they cannot and shall not be citizens. Make sense?
Right. I did some research on that just to find out if they eliminated it, and they did not. They kept the S16, Joint Resolution S16. So if you follow S16, it leads you to the Senate records, where it passed, the Senate, the House, and was voted into law by the President. And it's in the records.
It's never been repealed or nothing?
Never.
Okay.
Powerful.
I have a certified copy of it.
Oh.
I didn't bring it with me today.
I need the records. I need all the records. I need all the
Give me your
records.
email.
I'm gonna read quickly what stateless means internationally, and then we're gonna go to how to correct it, because having this knowledge is one thing, but we have to be able to apply it. So let me just get to the stateless real quick. And the United Nations defines stateless as a person who is not considered as a national by any state under the operation of its law. This is 3.4, the next page here.
Last paragraph?
Yeah, the second to last paragraph. So 3.4, the second to last paragraph, right above 3.5. This means that a stateless person is someone who does not have a nationality of any country, which would be black people. There's no black here. There's no Africa America. There's no people of color land. You understand? Even Latino brothers and sisters. Latin is a culture, language. It's not a land. Hispanic, also. You see, it's a game of, you know, we think, oh, that's just semantics. No, it's really more, it's about law, and it's about the truth of things. And they pass it off as though it's just playing with words, but it's really not. It's really giving us a status or taking away a status. And the UNHCR describes the effects of being stateless, aka people without a nationality. It states that if you have no nationality, you often forfeit the basic rights that citizens enjoy. Access to education and the job market. Sound familiar? Ability to buy and sell property or to open a bank account. When thousands of people are stateless for the same reason, this creates communities that are alienated and powerless. Does that sound familiar? Yes. Doesn't the black community seem powerless and alienated?
They show that on District 9, the movie District 9.
Oh, man.
They tell you right there.
Man, and yeah, see, this brother, a very good point. These movies that they show are definitely not just for entertainment. They are putting a lot of information. Lucy is another one. Cloud Atlas is another one that I encourage people to check out.
Jumpers.
Jumpers with Samuel L. Jackson. Jumpers. I just saw the Scoop.
What do you say, Malik?
Oh, the Disney. It's with Angelina Jolie. If you look at Disney movies, look that up. It's very interesting. And
well, in the beginning, they'll tell you this is the land of the Moors. Right? What you say?
Powerless and what else?
Alienated.
So alienated and powerless. So when an individual, in essence, says, "I'm black," you're saying alienated and powerless. Is that what you're telling me, brother?
Indeed, brother.
Stateless.
And stateless.
No nationality. No national homeland. No home to go to. Right?
Those blacks,
Like property.
give them whatever.
Yeah, just we'll put you over here into this ghetto.
One thing.
Right, or McDonald's and Burger King and all of that other all the liquor stores and the hot Cheetos and the Fritos. Oh, gotta love the churches. Got to love Popeyes, you know. I'm still struggling with that myself. Now let me get to what Noble Ali said, then we'll get to corrections. The universal prophet Noble Ali stated himself in the Quran Questions for Moorish Americans. What is meant by the word black? The answer is black according to science means death. Okay? What's science? Jurisprudence. This is jurisprudence is the science of law. And in law, using jurisprudence, using science, we see that the legal term civiliter mortuus means civilly dead, dead in the view of the law, the condition or state or status of one who has lost his civil rights, or rights of a citizen, and capacities, and is accounted dead in law. This is not my belief. I didn't say this. This is from a prophet. If you don't know who Noble Ali is, he was born in 1886, North Carolina Territory. He's on the same level of Buddha or Confucius or Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or Jesus or Yahshua is his true name. In the Muslim world they call him Isa, Ibn Maryam. Noble Ali is on that same status. And he told us this information in 1913, over 100 years ago. And there's a specific reason why he's not known. There's a specific reason. Because there's there is truth in so much of what he has put forth. And in the Bible it says, the truth shall set you free. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? And let me say this, I mean this no disrespect to our elders, to our peers, to anybody that has been fighting for our liberation, our freedom, and is using the term black, right? But we gotta stand on truth now. We don't have time for games. We don't have time for feelings and emotions on this. If the goal is freedom, liberation, then we gotta be true. We gotta be right and exact.
Yeah.
And this is not to take away from the work that's been done as so-called black people, or to discredit the effort. But I mean, you can run as fast as you like, and if you're running in the wrong direction, does that really help us?
Well, we know better to do that.
So, like, would you say, like, with the Black Lives Matter, do you think that that's something they put
Oh.
out there? Like,
But of course,
or they think that we did it and just let them run with it?
I wish I had the article because I saw an article reporting that it was linked to George Soros, I believe. That was funding this whole campaign, putting the money in with all the flyers and all the cute designs and decorations and all the people that came out of nowhere. Black Lives Matter, right? All of a sudden, quick, just like that. This is a specific reason to keep you in the game. See, even what we see going on in the media today about all the murders and all of the abuses that we're going through, is to get us emotional. In sports, right? I play sports. If you can get inside the mind, the state of the opposing player, you can rattle him. You got him off his game plan. That's how you win. Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, for that matter. He would get inside the minds of people so well that the fight was over before it began. And that's what's happening to us right now. We get, Black Lives Matter. Da, da, da. You see what's happening? And they roll out the plan accordingly. I saw it happen with Oscar Grant. I was out in the streets and I was black power the whole nine. And then I was on the streets when it wasn't so-called riots, when we were all marching peacefully. I went home and charged my phone and saw on CNN, riots in Oakland, riots in Oakland. I said, well, I was just down there. There wasn't no riots. I wasn't very conscious, but I remember looking at the TV about the true riots in LA. That's a riot. What they were broadcasting to the world was a framed perspective, a calculated perspective, to incite that emotion. Yeah, let's riot. Let's destroy things. Boom. Okay, we got them. Now let's bring in the police. You see? They riled us up a little bit. Same thing with Mike Brown. Got us all riled up again. Ferguson. Started bringing even more military. They're doing the same thing in Baltimore. Let me remind you. Riling us up. And this is all basically to get us all the way out of law. To say, forget the Constitution. And when we say that, as the heirs, as the true Americans, right, then they can operate in that manner. Because we're given that authority. We say, no, forget the Constitution, forget the laws. Well, they're being unruly. They're being terrorists. You think that what we see about what's going on in the East, when they label them people as terrorists, you think that's not going to happen to us if we continue doing what we're doing?
It's already happening.
It's already, and there's enough footage to frame that perspective. And we don't control the media. We can argue and say, oh, well, that's not what happened, but CNN is playing all throughout the airports, international. And people are going to say, well, look at it. And then you see the videos and the hip-hop and how we portray. And they say, well, they are. Look, I mean, they're doing it. They're savages. F the police, right?
Well, they're good about, I got one question. Not a question, but in the Bay Area, every time we get into a riot, a so-called riot, or in a situation that's dealing with our people, anything active, what they label the media as we being destructive, what they do, they allow their people to get out of town, go back to their homes so that they can carry on. If we ever noticed that the traffic jams, when things start happening like this, gets big. They let people off work so they can get home. So they can keep doing what they're doing. So it's just a word to know.
firsthand. I saw it. Let the schools out early the whole nine.
I work down here at Kaiser. Let us off work early so that we can get home.
Yeah, it's getting away from you.
And not by accident. I'm telling you, this is by design.
Let all the murder take place.
You can have feelings towards the quote unquote enemy or the opposition, but you got to respect their game plan. You got to know what the enemy is doing. Otherwise, you'll get played.
And they also try to take the racial element out, because whenever that happens, they always get a black spokesperson to come out, either as a reporter or as a police officer or as a police or as district attorney. They're always a person who looks like us that comes out and basically, so it's not a racial issue.
It's calculated. And Al-Haj Malik spoke on this. He spoke, anytime somebody speaks up, one of us speaks up, they immediately get that opposing side. Oh, well, some of them say this and some of them say that, so we don't know, blah, 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 blah. It's all by design, but rather than focus on that, let's get to the correction. Let's get to how we can fix things.
Yeah. That's not, can I interject? We'll take this, because you're talking about citizenship, expiration, and I'll turn the page on this bottom up. Go ahead. Go ahead and work it. Because it's in support of what you're saying. And this is back to their pretext when they start that race stuff and that they don't know United States law. You know, the so-called scholars that keep playing the race game. Go ahead, just read it out. Down the bottom. Okay.
Citizenship of the United States expatriation.
Yes.
Expatriation, UTC 459. Sir, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws.
No, make sure you read that. Remember, United States, Morocco. So when you're looking at United States law, when you're looking at law of the land, that's the corporation in operation. That's the country.
So that when
we're talking congressional records here. So this backs up everything he's telling you, but it also, as Sister Sabrina was talking about, you know, when you have different scholars that claim to be scholars that keep playing that race game and act like they don't know this. You know, there really isn't a debate. What they won't do is expose this kind of information. But go ahead, brother, go ahead, and go ahead and do your work.
Sir, there are strictly speaking no Moroccan laws relating to citizenship of Moorish subjects in Morocco. The fundamental laws of this non-Christian country are based entirely upon the Islamic code, no part of which treats of the subject of citizenship.
Now, there you go, 460.
There are, however, numerous treaties and conventions between the various Christian countries and the Moorish Empire, by means of which citizenship in this country is defined. But as I understand from the above acknowledged instructions, that is not the desire of the department to call for a report upon such lines, I will therefore confine these remarks to general conditions existing, which may possibly be of some use in connection with the information desired. Real quickly, when they mention Christian, you got to understand that it's all. You got to look in history and understand that Christian was related to a specific people and not what we think as church. Okay, so this is a long-term war between the so-called Christians and the Muslims, or the Romans and the Muslims, or the Moors. Understand these are terms throughout history that you got to know. And I would advise you to look up the definition of Christianity and see what it says in the dictionary for yourself. Citizenship in Morocco may be said to be governed by the law pertaining to the same in other countries, with the exception that all persons residing in Morocco who cannot prove foreign citizenship or protection are considered ipso jure as Moorish subjects. So, if you can't prove you have citizenship from somewhere else, you are automatically Moroccan subjects. Understand that? That's who we are. Right? But once we say we're black, now they got us in their system. That's proper.
Keep that in mind. This is United States law.
And furthermore, understand that the first treaty that the United States entered into was with the Moroccan Empire, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, longest standing treaty.
Where's that cited at right there? What law is that cited under?
This is United States law with citizenship and expatriation. which means anybody in the United States that's talking about citizenship and don't tell the people this truth are BSing. And just like the sister was saying, when these scholars pretend they don't know this, but they're called scholars.
To put it very simply and plainly, the way we correct this is proclaim our nationality, declare our nationality. This is what a prophet told us back in 1913. If you don't do nothing else, if you don't protest, march, anything, declare your nationality. But why? That corrects our status, which corrects our relationship with other communities, corrects our relationship with our estate, right? And this meaning the property as in the entire Americas. We're always searching where is our home, where do we come from? We are home. But we can't claim this as our home. We can't have the title, the interest, the right, the sovereign right, as this is our home as blacks, as African Americans, as people of color, as Negroes, as niggas, as any of that. Our nationality is Moorish American because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Understanding that Morocco is not just the little piece of land that you see on the maps today. It's from there across the Atlantic Ocean and all of the Americas. Okay? Understanding that's all the Moroccan Empire. This is all our land, the Americas, anciently known as Northwest Amexem. That's what happens when we correct our status. I mean, there's plenty of other things that we have to do, complex things that we have to get into. But the first step, right? The first step that we got to do, step one, proclaim and declare our nationality. How do we do that? How do we do that?
That's the question that I want to clarify.
What is proclaiming?
In terms of, well, once we declare and stuff, what I want to clarify later is, you know, following stuff on public record and also what agencies.
I hear you. But see,
we'll do that at the end.
We try to go 1,000 miles a minute.
Yeah.
Right? We ready. Let's just first get step one.
Okay.
Declare. Proclaim. What does that mean in law? It's in there. I'll put it down there for you. Publicly, put on the record, written documents to let the world know, not just the U.S., not just here nationally, let the entire world know this is who we are. That is the first step. We can't do it as blacks. We can't do it as African Americans. And there's plenty of precedent. What's going on in Palestine right now with the Israeli nation state. They claim that land of Palestine as their own through the international courts. In fact, using their religious doctrine, their text. Okay, understand, I'm not agreeing with that at all, but understand how that works. They made a claim, they had evidence to support it, they took it over. Okay, we can make a claim. We have evidence, the Holy Quran and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. And just so you think this is not just a religious book, this works for history and you can put it on the record as evidence, just as it was done there. The difference is we have a much superior claim. Understand? We have a much superior and evidence, not just in this book, but all the pyramids or mounds up and down the Americas to prove that we were here. We have evidence in history that proves that we are Moors. There's evidence in chapter 4 that has it on the record both in 1933 and currently with the Illinois state legislature that knows who we are very clearly. It's not a question. It's not some belief. This is a fact. The FBI, look up, just Google FBI Moorish Americans. They have about 30 PDF documents in which, on the record that came out from the Freedom of Information Act, and inside those documents it has this entire Quran copied. And this is an investigation that was going back in the 30s. So they know very clearly. It's not a question of whether they don't know. The question is on us. But see, before we can be who we are, and before we can speak who we are, we have to get our minds right. We must know mentally. We have to correct our state mentally on who we are. That mental state Then we can correct our status, correct our estate, etc. Islam?